and I have
Welcome to Media Pat. I'm Louise Palanker.
And I'm Fritz Coleman.
Today on the show, we've got the man who wrote and performed what I believe to be the greatest song of all time. It's a song that proudly walks in its own bold, unapologetic, full-bodied, sassy, sappy brilliance. The song is a stirring blend of tides and swells like the ocean itself, and it's unafraid to be over the top like an enormous wave that crashes through your heart and forever changes it. Yes, we are talking about Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. Writer and performer Elliot Lurie from Looking Glass joins us very soon.
That should be a liner note. That was well written, wasn't it, Elliot?
That's going to be my blurb.
But first, Fritz and I have been watching and reading for you.
You know, we weed through the chaff and the filler so people don't have to.
Yeah.
We like to offer them good suggestions.
Yeah, we're like those people in the movie business that read the script, and then they just read through all the scripts, and then they hand the ones that are good to the people that make movies.
Exactly. My first one is a sign of how old I am, but I unabashedly got tears in my eyes from this great documentary on Netflix called My Love, 6 Stories of True Love. This is a story that will reinstill your faith in true love and long relationships. It follows 6 couples from around the world who've been married at least 40 years, and a few have been married over 60 years. And it investigates the secrets to their success as a couple. And it goes from the USA, which is the first one, to Spain, to Korea, Brazil, Japan, India. The film crew spend a year with each couple. They go through 4 seasons with each couple. And you watch the everyday dance of care and nurturing each couple goes through. It's based on a Korean movie from 2013 called My Love, Don't Cross the River, which chronicles a Korean couple married 75 years ago. It's so touching and so tender. And for some of us, a 40 to 60-year marriage can only be hypothetical. That makes this movie downright miraculous. Really loved it.
Wow. So any of the stories kind of stand out as...
I think the American story, only because culturally you're connected with it. These are farmers from Vermont, and they're so cute. And they may spend a couple of minutes with the wife combing the husband's hair before they go to bed.
Oh, my God, I hate these people.
And then...
Yeah.
You know, he'll get ready to go to bed and he'll walk over to her side of the bed. And the guy's 85 years old and walks over to her side of the bed under his own power, gives her a little kiss on the forehead and said, you know, honey, you've never looked as beautiful as you do right now. And you fall off your chair. It's so sweet. It will fill your heart.
He's a prince.
He is a prince.
That is adorable. You're right.
Sophia.
All right, I'm going to watch that.
What do you got?
Okay, so my first pick is called Pink, because every good documentary, Elliot, needs a colon. Pink, and do not forget to spell pink without an I, but with an exclamation point. It's key. All I Know So Far, Pink, All I Know So Far. It's a documentary. In All I Know So Far, Pink has released a documentary to match her new song title, #branding. The film is a behind-the-scenes look at Pink as she balances family and life on the road, leading up to her first Wembley Stadium performance on 2019's Beautiful Trauma World Tour. Pink's doc is especially pertinent because, on a very grand scale, she balances the very same work, home, family, kids equation faced by women everywhere during the pandemic. Pink says that biology pulls at mothers differently than it does fathers, and that were she to tour without her kids, she'd be up all night worrying about them. So when Pink is on the road, they are a circus family, and it is fun and fascinating to watch. I've always been, I don't know about you guys, but I've always been perfectly content with Pink's gorgeous and often anthemic music, which speaks directly to the souls of millions. I never fully appreciated all of the Cher, Gaga, Elton extravaganza that turns concerts into Cirque du Soleil or the Carnival of Venice masked ball. You can just stand there and sing, as my Uncle Bernie once complained about Helen Reddy in Vegas. But Pink is an actual acrobat who sings while being flung across the sky. Her core must be granite, and it is a wonder to behold. I mean, seriously, they are flinging this woman.
Now, I have not seen the documentary, but I've seen clips of her concerts where she does like the full Cirque du Soleil thing from one side of a 7,000-seat stadium to another.
Yeah.
And she's really talented. I've always liked her. I just like her attitude about everything.
No, she's outstanding, so I'm now obsessed with Pink. Okay. And apparently this was not the first Pink documentary. You can travel along her media path back to 2014 and find Pink, Staying True on Prime Video, in which Pink breaks the mold, bringing her career to a new level in 2013 with a world tour that entertains unlike ever before. Get inside access to the girl who got the party started with exclusive interviews and rare live performances. So you can get your Pink on. It's all there.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
She also wrote the current theme for Ellen DeGeneres' show, too.
Did she?
Yeah, so that residual is going to come to an end here at the end of the year. But
I think Pink's doing okay.
Yeah, doing fine. All right, so I got to stick an environmental doc in there whenever I can. This
I know,
is called
that's your
Kiss
thing.
the Ground.
That's your jam.
On Netflix. If you're one of those people who think we need to change our behavior with how we treat this planet, this is a film for you. It looks at what's called regenerative agriculture. And here's what regenerative agriculture is. Industrial farming, which is the bulk of farming in the United States, is really bad for the climate. It releases greenhouse gases. It ultimately destroys our health and the environment. And how does it do that? And this is the key to the film. It destroys the soil. This movie explains that soil is the key to everything. The chemicals we use to grow massive harvests of crops, the over-plowing we do to get maximum yield out of fields destroys the soil. And this all destroys the soil's ability to store carbon, which is the key building block in healthy plants and healthy food and healthy people. It's called carbon sequestration. It's the big topic now. There are interviews with chefs and farmers and ranchers and scientists. The movie's produced by Leo DiCaprio, who produces a lot of really good environmental documentaries. Mm-hmm. And it's narrated by Woody Harrelson. It's based on a book by Josh Tickell. If you want to learn about a really effective solution to the climate crisis, this is a simple and relatively fast way to do it. I recommend this film. It's really interesting.
That sounds really cool. So did they explain that this is what led to the Dust Bowl?
Yes.
Okay.
The Dust Bowl, as a matter of fact, the first quarter of the film describes how that happened, being overplowed and no irrigation and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, we have to be
good movie.
Responsible farmers, I say, as someone who's never farmed. I haven't planted a carrot. I'm like not someone who should be speaking about farming. All right, so have you watched Hacks? Has anyone watched Hacks? Oh, Dina has. Okay. Hacks on HBO. Now, HBO is, they're coy. They just release these shows like one or two at a time, They leave you just kind of whimpering by your television. Mm-hmm. But Hacks is coming out one or two at a time. And I will say this, Jean Smart is on fire this COVID season with nomination buzz churning for her roles in The Watchmen, Mayor of Easttown, and now Hacks. And the part she plays in Mayor of Easttown is completely different than the part she plays in Hacks. It's called acting, Fritz. Look at it.
I love her.
So in Hacks, Jean plays a legendary but Vegas-hardened cranky comedian intersecting with a sharp but
cranky comedian?
Yes, but a cranky comedian. Fritz, you're going to be like, I don't get it. Intersecting with a sharp but internet-canceled and embittered young comedy writer. A darkly amusing mentorship forms between the two, and antics ensue. This is smart, funny writing, and in its own lovingly warped way, it celebrates the power of mentorship.
Good selection. I love her to death. I'm on a nonprofit board with her, Hillside Homes in Pasadena.
Do you guys have your picture together?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm going to put it.
And now it suddenly that has value because you mentioned it. I'm going to go find it.
Yeah, find it, and then I'll put it in the YouTube version of this very program.
I'm so thankful for her recent sort of wash of success with all these shows because her husband passed away about a month ago.
Oh, no.
And he's a sweet guy, and she's got 2 children, one adopted from China. She's the loveliest person you'll ever meet. And if I could just add this, Hillside Home is an organization that rescues at-risk children from abusive family situations. And there are about 100 clients, as they call them, at this facility, beautiful facility. It's like a college in Pasadena. And she walks the walk. She's not the typical star that writes a check for $10,000.
You mean like Elliot?
Well, no, I didn't mean that. I wanted to draw him into the conversation.
Sure.
He might know her, but she, like at Thanksgiving, she'll put on a witch's costume and go and hand out candy and engage with every kid in the
Aw.
place. She's really a lovely person and deserves her recent major success. Cool.
I have a personal question to ask. My media path has some cul-de-sacs. Was Gene smart in designing women?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you say that your media path has some cul-de-sacs? I have to remember that one. That's a beauty.
That's a great bumper sticker we ought to think about for marketing.
I can use that when someone starts to talk to me about heavy metal music. I can say, and that path, my path there has some cul-de-sacs.
Has some cul-de-sacs. I'm very sorry. A road not traveled.
I love that.
Elliot Lurie is an American musician who was the lead guitarist, songwriter, and frequently lead vocalist in the New Jersey band Looking Glass from 1969 until 1974. He wrote and sang lead on their 1972 iconic #1 smash, Brandy, parentheses, You're a Fine Girl, and their 1973 top 40 single, Jimmy Loves Marianne. After leaving the band in the mid-1970s, Lurie released a self-titled album and a single, Disco, parentheses, Where You Gonna Go? He later signed with Arista Records and wrote songs for Chapel Music and Screen Gems Music. In the 1980s, Lurie wrote and produced music for private businesses. In 1985, he became head of the music department at 20th Century Fox. That year, he produced the soundtrack from the John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis film Perfect. Since then, he has worked as music supervisor on numerous films, including Alien 3, A Night at the Roxbury, Riding in Cars with Boys, I Spy, and Spanglish. In recent years, Elliot has returned to live performing. Welcome, Elliot.
Thank you. Hi.
So nice to meet you.
So my first question to you is, could you tell us about the acapella version on your YouTube page of Brandy with the Young Guns Quartet?
Yes. I'll tell you how that came about. It was one of the few bright moments of the COVID fiasco.
I call these COVID blessings.
Yeah, it was in a way. I had been scheduled to do a show, and I had written a song that really doesn't work without background singers. So a couple of times I'd gone to various cities, and I tried to find the best vocal group that I could afford to come sing with me at the show. So I had scheduled to do a show with them in upstate New York, and the show got canceled because of COVID. But we stayed in touch, and the leader of the group, Greg Mallett, called me one day, and he said, Elliot, we've worked up this arrangement of Brandy, and would you like to hear it, and is there anything we could do with it? He sent it to me, and I loved it. And I said, well, this is perfect. Let's Zoom it, and I'll sing the lead, and you guys do your parts, and we'll edit the video and put it up there. And it came out great and very well received.
Really did. Can you play a moment of that for us, Thomas? There you are.
You could tell it's COVID. Bad teeth, long hair.
Yeah, but you got great lighting. That's not bad for Zoom.
100 ships a day, low sailors pass the time away, and they talk about their homes. And there's a girl in this harbor town, and she works laying whiskey down. They say, Brandy, hey Brandy, fetch another round. She serves them whiskey and wine. They say, Brandy, they say you're a fine girl. They say, what a blood wife you would be. Such a fine yeah, your eyes could still sail from the sea.
People just look so joyful when they're singing that song.
Yeah, here's the sad thing. Every kid singing with you wasn't born when this thing was a hit.
Well, that's true.
That's spectacularly beautiful, though, and your voice is great.
Thank you. I was really pleasantly surprised when I put my voice in with theirs, and how great the blend was. And, just hearing it in my headphones as I was singing with them, it looks like I'm having a blast.
It looked like you
was.
were having a good time.
I was.
I was a DJ for 15 years, and my career ended, I think, just after Brandy peaked. It ended around 1978. And I was thinking of all the songs that I played most frequently. And I think Looking Glass and Brandy was one of those right up in the top 3, the most frequently requested and played songs. And in the other categories for bathroom songs, of course, it was Stairway to Heaven and Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues. But yours was one of the singly most requested songs.
What's a bathroom song? I don't know that.
The Stairway to Heaven was 8 minutes and 20 seconds long, which was long enough to take a bathroom break when you're a DJ. And Nights in White Satin was about 7 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, when you hear the guy start to talk, run back to the mic.
Yeah, right. But I just wanted to say this, that I think that Brandy is one of the most beautifully written story songs, which to me makes a successful song. You hear story songs in country music a lot now and in yesteryear, but this is a beautiful song. And what I was so surprised to hear was you improvised the words to this as you were doing the music. It wasn't like you sat and wrote this beautiful story and then put it to music.
Well, up to a point. Once I got the first part of it going, then it was kind of tricky to get the whole story complete in 3 minutes and, get all the meter matching and get the rhymes in there. So working that part out, that was not improvisational. But the beginning of the story just sort of came.
Maybe you were Brandy in a former life.
Possible.
I mean, what is your background in terms of sea towns or that type of atmosphere?
People always ask me, they say, were you in the Navy or the Merchant Marine? I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and the biggest ship I've ever been on to that point was the Staten Island ferry. So it's just, but I did a lot of writing in high school and even in college, short stories and fiction and things like that. And the teachers always said, "Oh, this is great," and a couple of them were published and this and that. So I liked writing stories, and this one is 3 minutes.
Did anybody ever approach you and say, let's flesh this out into like a film?
Absolutely. I've gotten a number of pitches on it and a couple of completed screenplays.
Wow.
But, for me, I mean, I don't discourage them. And I tell them that, if you want to acquire the rights, you can get them. But for me, part of the satisfaction of the story is that it's 3 minutes long and it rhymes. And that's it. As far as I'm concerned, that's where we leave Brandy and the Sailor, and it's done.
It's got a bridge. We're done.
Exactly.
Very complete.
Exactly.
Wow.
But it's so evocative, and it really puts you there. And that's, I think, why all the requests. It's not just that it's a beautiful song. It's that every time you hear the song, you're there. You're with these people.
And that's what I've heard. And if you were a disc jockey, Fritz, I mean, there were bigger hits in 1972 than Brandy. But a lot of them have not had the legs, as they say, that Brandy has.
I think your voice in the story, it's just a beautiful story that you can hear it a million times and just fall in love with it. It's really... And I think you mentioned this yourself, that what keeps it afloat in people's minds is you can't categorize the song. You guys are obviously, Looking Glass, were R&B based because you had these beautiful harmonies, and you played in New Jersey, and I'm thinking like the Rascals are this great sort of blue-eyed soul.
Very much an influence on us, on me, the Rascals.
But you couldn't plug it into that. You couldn't plug it into pop. You couldn't plug it into R&B. It was just kind of floated out there on its own.
Well, part of the reason for that, I think, is because the production of the track was what I call the hunt and peck process. We had recorded the song a number of times, at least twice, and it came out not sounding like a hit record, and we were looking for a hit record. And Clive Davis, who signed us to the label, was very generous with us and said, well, if you guys want to finish the record in the production, go ahead, give it a shot. So, as you say, it doesn't sound like an R&B record. It doesn't sound like a typical 70s pop record like maybe the Grassroots. As much as I love the Grassroots, that's a 70s pop record. Mm-hmm. This one is a little of this and a little of that. And I think part of it is because we kind of didn't know what we were doing. When it sounded good, we said, okay, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, but I think a key to success is knowing when it's good. Because you have to, our minds are like computers. We're constantly eliminating what sucks. So that's a
well,
part of.
we eliminated
That's a
a lot
good
of things
point.
that sucked on that record.
And you're talking about that, talking about knowing when it's a hit record. I mean, before the hit version of this came out, there were several earlier manifestations. I love the interconnecting lines in music, and one of the first guys you worked with was Steve Cropper,
Yes.
who was, the house band of Stax Records
Yes.
and Booker T and the MGs.
Yes.
Did a version with you. And then, I don't know if it was Clive Davis or somebody said, it sounds great, it's not a hit record. And I thought, wow, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, we went down. Clive suggested that we have Steve Cropper produce us, and we loved that idea. He was, an iconic guy and great player and producer. So we went down to Memphis, and we did 4 sides with him. And we came back to New York, and we had a meeting with Clive, and we played the 4 sides. And they were very well done, but they didn't sound like hits, which is to say they sounded like a good bar band, which is basically what we were, recorded really well, but it didn't sound like you'd hear it on the radio.
Wow. I don't even know how you analyze something as that, but yeah, that's the key to people's success in the business is knowing when that.
Well, especially back then, because again, you'll know as a disc jockey, singles on radio. First of all, AM was still around. I mean, I remember we did a monophonic mix and a stereo mix of that, one for AM and one for FM, and there was a certain sound that bursted out of the radio, and those were the singles. Those were the hits.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what Clive had. He had
Yeah,
he had the ears, yeah.
Yeah.
So you did a solo album, and I looked up some of the stuff. So let's talk about the days on the Sunset Strip, living in Chateau Marmont and making music in the 70s. Who were you hanging out with? What all went on? And we want gory details.
Gosh, I don't know how gory I can get. I did this solo album, and Clive was still at Epic Records, and he suggested, and my A&R man, Stephen Paley, suggested that I go out to Los Angeles and have a guy named David Kirschenbaum produce the album out here. And I did, and we had the best L.A. players that you can imagine. Usually half the band was Toto, and the other half of the band was the Jazz Crusaders. I mean, I was like a little bit in awe of the band. And I did live at the Chateau Marmont before it was renewed and revived. It was, it was the old Chateau Marmont with the couches with the stuffing coming out. And I had a gorgeous view of the boulevard, and we used to run down to there was a Mexican place on La Brea. We used to run down to La Brea, get 2 burritos, bring them back to the suite at the Chateau Marmont, watch Fritz.
God help you.
And
The low point of your career.
Best when stoned.
But the album, despite the good players, part of the problem with the album that I have, and I can only listen to certain songs on it now, is it was one of these records where, you're trying very hard to get a hit single. And when you have an album full of songs that just miss being hit singles, it's not a very listenable album. And then the other thing that happened was, and I don't blame this at all for the lack of success of the album, I think the real reason it didn't succeed was because it wasn't really a focused piece of work. But during the time that I was living it up at the Chateau Marmont, Clive had that famous issue with the bar mitzvah and had to leave CBS Records.
Oh, please tell that story, because I...
You don't know the story
Is
of
it in
Clive
the
Davis
movie?
and the bar mitzvah?
Paid for it out of company funds or something.
Clive
Oh,
Davis,
yeah.
as successful a record man as he was, and he still is one of the most successful ever, somehow or another there was politics going on where they wanted him out. And, CBS was a big company, and the record company was only a very small part of CBS. Something happened with the politics where they weren't happy with Clive. So they said that he had used company funds to play for his son's bar mitzvah. And they one day told him to pack up all his stuff and unceremoniously leave the big black tower on 52nd Street. And when I came back from the Chateau Marmont with my album under my hands, there were all new people there who said, "Oh, okay, yeah, nice to see you.
Wow.
Yeah, we remember you, the Brandy guy, right?"
Oh, we've had a change in management.
But again, I don't blame that for the fact that the album didn't succeed. I don't think it was that great a project, but it certainly didn't help.
Well, we interviewed Gary Puckett. You might have known him from the road years and stuff. And the Union Gap had a situation very similar to what Looking Glass had, which was the record company wanted to put session players on their music, not giving you guys credibility as great musicians, and you had to talk your way into playing on your own record, which was very similar to what he had to go through. He said, no, we had to insist that we play on our own record, and it was a big fight.
And we did the same, because the version that finally came out, the production was started by a staff producer at CBS, and he came out to meet with us and told us what he was going to do. It sort of at the end of the conversation, he just threw it away, and I'm going to have the top guys playing on it. And we went, huh? What? And we said, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, you had a song that you've got posted on your YouTube channel called Rainbow Girl, which illustrates the type of kids who were drawn to the strip in the 70s. So who was the Rainbow Girl? What was she looking for? In other words, this prototype. Did she find it? And what is she doing today?
Oh, man.
Let's hope she's still living and breathing today, because the Rainbow Room back in the 70s, and really right through the 80s, and as far as I know, I haven't been there a long time, and may still be that way, but it was legendary for abuse and outrageous outfits and things going on behind the bar that you didn't want to know about. But I often went there on my own when I was making that album, because I didn't really know many people in LA, and that's where the musicians hang out, and sometimes I'd run into a musician I knew. And I would see these women who were just so obviously trying to find the right guy, and the right guy for them, I think, was like a recognizable rock star, of whom there were many at the Rainbow Room in those days. So the song is kind of about a girl who, drives in from Sherman Oaks or Van Nuys or wherever, and she goes to the Rainbow Room and she's looking for the lead singer of such and such, and she goes there 3 or 4 nights a week, and sometimes she goes home alone, and sometimes she goes home with the lead singer.
So Fritz, where is she today?
That's a very good question. Probably the hostess at Morton's Steakhouse. I don't know.
She could be. I think she's in Palm Beach. She's married to somebody who is very big in the nonprofit world, and
the bass player from Whitesnake.
There's been a lot of work done.
Probably. But that's another great story. You're a great storyteller. Have you ever thought about broadening that talent out in a novel or other written pieces? Or
I haven't really. I sometimes sit down and try to recollect things that have happened, and not really a memoir, but just sort of episodes from it, and I find it really difficult to write anything of length. Maybe that's why I wrote a great 3-minute song. That's as much as I have to say.
Some people would say that's even harder, to keep it to 3 minutes and beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah. So we've got some Brandy trivia.
Okay.
Are you ready to play?
I'm good for that.
So, did you know, Elliot, that following the you probably do. You know the Brandy
Not
trivia.
all of them.
I've just learned.
I'm often surprised.
All right. Well, let's see if I can trip you up. Okay. Did you know that following the release of the song Brandy, the name Brandy increased in popularity? Oh, the power of music. According to data from the Social Security Administration, Brandy was the 353rd most popular name for a girl in 1971. Far more popular in the name of an alcoholic beverage. But in 1972, the name leaped to number 140. And in 1973, it got all the way up to the 82nd spot.
With a bullet.
So, with a bullet. So how often do you meet a girl named Brandy who credits you with her name?
I don't meet them that often, but on Facebook, I get a ton of them that either are named Brandy after the song, or moms who named their daughters Brandy after the song. So quite a few. And it's interesting because most of them spell it the way the title of the song is, but a lot of them have changed it to Brandi or Brandie.
Are they ever not such a fine girl?
Parenthetically, they're all fine girls.
But it didn't start as Brandy. What did it start as?
Oh, and
Oh, no, it did. Here's more trivia. You're on to something, Fritz.
Okay.
I'm going to pull at that thread.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So Barry Manilow's 1974 hit Mandy was a cover of a song originally called Brandy, released in February 1972 by Scott English. However, Manilow changed the title following the success of the Looking Glass single so as not to get the two songs confused. Have you met Barry Manilow, and how pissed is he? I hear that he holds a grudge.
I have never met Barry Manilow. Although I see his picture right up there. I've never met him, but Clive was the executive on both. So Clive, of course, and it's funny that he found the English song Brandy, which was actually released before our Brandy was, but it was a very minor hit in England. But Clive, at those great years, found the song. He said, this can be a hit for somebody. But by the time he married Barry Manilow to the song, we had already had our hit. So they had to change the title.
But Brandy wasn't the original title that you wrote.
It was the original title of the song, but it wasn't the first name I came up with when I was writing. I had a high school sweetheart named Randy with an R. And the way I write, and I still write mostly the same way, is I'll play some chords on the guitar or on the piano until I get something working. And I'll kind of just free associate and sing along with it. And, I guess I was thinking of her and I sang the name Randy. And then once I got the story started, I said, well, Randy's got a problem because it can be either a male or female name, number one. And if she's going to be a barmaid, she's got to be Brandy. So that's how it came about.
It's a great
where's
story.
Randy
And I'm still in
today?
touch with Brandy. She lives in Oregon. And she, late in life, became a painter, an artist.
Really?
And I have one of her paintings hanging in my music room.
Oh, that's so cool.
You bet.
That's a
That's
full circle
fantastic.
moment. All right, so we have more Brandy trivia.
Okay.
In his 2014 memoir, Face the Music, Paul Stanley from Kiss wrote that Brandy helped inspire the band's 1976 hit Hard Luck Woman with lyrics such as, Rags, the sailor's only daughter, a child of the water, too proud to be a queen. Rags, I really love you. I can't forget about you. You'll be a hard luck woman, baby, till you find your man. So basically, he's saying to her, like, I'll have sex with you, but I'm not going to marry you.
I've heard that story, and I've never met Paul Stanley. And I'm glad that my song inspired him to write a good song,
Okay, the 2005 song Same Old 45 by Sarah Borges. Am I saying this right, Elliot?
Bareilles?
No, it's Borges. From the album Silver City, retells the story of Brandy from her point of view. So here are some of the lyrics. Dark moon, bring him back. I ain't seen him since the moon was a fingernail, and I shed a tear for him as this ship was setting sail, sitting in my room playing the same old 45 about a girl named Brandy, the would-be sailor's pride.
I had heard about that, but I've never heard it, I don't think, and I certainly didn't know the lyric.
All right, it's quiz time. Is everybody ready? Okay, I think you guys can all play. The song Brandy did not appear on which of the following films or TV shows? Lords of Dogtown, Say Anything, Charlie's Angels, A Very Brady Sequel, Gardens of the Galaxy Volume 2, The Black Klansman, The Simpsons, episode Principal Charming. Selma sings a low, mournful styling of the song to Lisa as she is putting her to bed.
One of my favorite uses.
Kevin James sings the song at a karaoke bar in an episode of The King of Queens. In Still the Beaver, June sues Wally's crying firstborn, Brandy, with the song.
That certainly was not in there.
Okay, I think you've won.
But all
I
the
made-
other ones
all the-
are.
all
it
the other
has to
ones.
be one of the most used songs in pop music history.
I
And
don't know.
covered.
I don't know that it's one of the most used songs in pop music history because there are things that are like more anthemic that you see used in because it's a story song. So either the story of the movie or TV show has to have something to do with that story, or it's basically what we used to call, when I was a music supervisor, source music, which means it's coming from, like in Black Klansman. They're just sitting in a bar, and it happens to be 1972, and Brandy's playing in the bar. Now, the thing in The Simpsons was a lot of fun. They made that episode when I was working at Fox, and Fox made The Simpsons. So I was friendly with a
were
couple of the
kissing up.
producers, and they thought it would be a good gag to have that going on. So Some of those uses were because I was involved in one way or another behind the scenes on some of those productions.
Oh, wow. But I bet the moment you suggested it, people were like, perfect.
I would never suggest it.
Oh,
because
really?
You can't be a buyer and a seller at the same time, so I'd never suggest it. But a lot of the people that I worked with when I was in that role as a music supervisor knew that I had done Brandy. And like the guys at The Simpsons, they thought, let's use Elliott's song. We'll have Lisa sing it. It'll be great. And it'll work in the episode, So, it was
So
top of
you,
mind.
when you retired the band, you wrote for other people?
A bit, but mostly I was, kind of a staff writer. I didn't really write for other people. I had a publishing deal, so I would, turn them in their required songs every year, but I wasn't real active at it.
But you had a broad expanse of flavors there. You had, like country, you had Kenny Chesney all the way over to...
Well, Kenny Chesney covered Brandy, which I thought was really cool, and the Chili Peppers covered Brandy, which is kind of a broad range for the song. But other than that, I don't really have a lot of covers. What happened was after the solo album didn't do anything, I was kind of adrift. I was living in New York City, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. Nobody was really interested in making another record with me. So I decided to move out to L.A., see what was going on out here. I had a friend out here, a TV producer, who'd moved out from New York a couple of years before I did. Guy I'd known since we were 12 years old, went to school together, named Stan Rogo, produced the series Lizzie McGuire, among other things. Oh, yeah. So he said, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was ready to take a job as a salesman at Radio Shack. And he said to me, you can't do that. Let me introduce you to this guy. And he introduced me to an agent at CAA who was in their film music department. And he said, with your background in the record business, maybe you'd like to be a music supervisor, make soundtrack albums, things like that. I didn't even know what that was because it was a brand new position in the industry there. And he said to me, well, there's only two people who are doing a lot of it right now successfully. One is, he mentioned the name I didn't know, and he said the other one is this woman, Becky Shargo, who did Urban Cowboy and Footloose. And Becky Shargo was a name that rang a bell with me. She had been the A&R coordinator for that solo album that I did in L.A.
Wow.
So I called her up and I said, I'm looking for something to do. Becky, do you need help? She said, I'm very busy, but I can't really afford to pay you. I said, well, if you'll teach me this business, I'll work for nothing for you. And
Very
she
smart.
did, and I did. And worked
What's
out.
a music supervisor do?
It's changed a lot, but basically it's an individual who's responsible for making sure that all of the music in the movie is the way the filmmaker or the TV producer, if it's TV, wants it to be. And sometimes that involves making creative suggestions. Sometimes it simply involves business of acquiring rights or getting an artist to sing on a soundtrack album and dealing with their record company and getting them to do it. And it's changed quite a bit because in the 80s, if you recall, MTV used to play all these music videos from films, and they were basically trailers for the films and free advertising for the movie companies. So that was a very big part of it back then in the 80s was, getting a hit single with a music video to promote the film.
Can you explain to us the difference between people who want to be paid if you use their music and people who want you to use their music because it's promotional?
I think the big difference is how desperate you are. I mean, if you're with any kind of major music publisher or record company, they're not going to let anyone use your music or their music since they technically own it without paying for it. But if you're an independent artist and, you get a chance to get your music exposed on something that a lot of people are going to see, I can understand why you would, why you want it done and do it for nothing.
We talked about that with Denny Tedesco. Even though his dad and the session players and the Wrecking Crew created the music, they still had to pay the rights for it. And Weezy went through that whole rights situation with the Cowsills movie. But that's just amazing to me that, hey, I was there when they recorded the song. Can I just borrow it for my movie?
Yeah, I've heard about that, and that's really too bad because I'd love to see that movie. I'd love to see it get made, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
well, it's made. The Wrecking Crew is made.
It's a fantastic movie, and I know you're a fan of session players and the best in the business back there.
Yeah. He's moved on to the next era, which is going to be the immediate family. So Waddy Wachtel and Danny Korchmar, those guys, Lee Sklar. So yeah, he's got help with acquiring the rights and everything. But when it comes to YouTube, it seems like things are shifting towards YouTube or the labels or the publishers gaining an understanding that having everyone do covers is good for us. And they seem to be less restrictive in terms of what you can do.
Well, they get paid for it, though. On YouTube, all of the majors have what's called a blanket license.
Okay.
So they make an overall deal with YouTube and say you could use any of our repertoire, whether you're Sony Records, Warner Brother Records, big music publishers. And then theoretically what's supposed to happen, although I'm not sure if I'm checking my statements that it's done accurately, but supposedly they're supposed to keep track, YouTube, of the number of plays that the song gets, and the record company or music publisher splits it up based on the number of plays that it's get. Or at least in theory, that's the way it's supposed to work.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a good compromise or a good arrangement, because it used to be that they would flag you or they would mute it, and now they just kind of like put a widget on it that leads to purchasing the song.
Yeah, and the next mountain to climb is going to be TikTok, because TikTok is the same kind of thing, and TikTok is starting to make deals with the record companies and the publishers, but they haven't gotten as far with that as they did with YouTube.
How do you feel about where we are with that right now? The music business is 180 degrees different than it was when you had your hits. Now it's streaming and downloads, and bands have to do concerts in order to make money and sell merchandise and stuff. What are your feelings about where it is right now?
For someone like me, who's a quote-unquote heritage artist, and has a song that's kind of become a standard, it's a good thing because it keeps it out there in front of the public. Young people discover it. It probably earns at least as much money for me as it would if those things didn't exist. But I think for new artists, it's really not so good. Not so good because those services, they don't really pay a lot. You look at your statement. I mean, and you see, 140 million streams, $2.30.
I know.
And it's
seem right.
And it's especially bad for the songwriters, because what happens is the record companies get a decent pay, but the record companies are still paying most artists, especially the ones who have old contracts like I do, the same rate that they used to get for records. So the record company is paying you 14 cents on the dollar. And for songwriters, it's even worse. So, but again, it makes the music very easily and readily accessible.
Yeah.
And, there are those instances where people just jump out of YouTube or jump out of TikTok and become overnight sensations.
Mm-hmm.
And beginning bands can self-record and self-publish and deliver their product on their own website, and then they don't get into a big thing of being in debt to a record company and have to pay back everything the record company gave them.
That is very true, and more artists are doing that. When I write and record new stuff now that's under my name, I just put it up on all the streaming services through a little distributor that I have, and I put it up on YouTube myself, whether it's just like a lyric video or a little thing that my wife shoots at home. So that does eliminate the middleman, but then you have to get noticed.
Yeah.
And there's so much out there.
How do you promote it?
How do you get noticed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to do, I know a good way to get noticed. It's a little more Brandy Trivia. Okay. I think we'll get you noticed. Okay. Which of the following acts has not covered the song Brandy? Ray Conniff, Washboard Jungle, Ziggy Marley, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Kenny Chesney, Gonzalez, or Big Head Todd and the Monsters?
I think it's Ziggy Marley has not done it.
Completely made that up.
Yeah. I'd like to hear a Ziggy Marley version.
I would like to hear his version. I think he did an excellent take on it. So we heard you tell us when you got here that you're a part of Yacht Rock. So we want you to back up a moment and explain and describe Yacht Rock and its origins, and then how you come in. He's hydrating for this adventure.
So I sort of had retired from the music supervision business probably around, 2010 maybe. And, I was kind of semi-retired. And I got a phone call from a guy who says, my name is Peter Olson, and I'm in a band called Yacht Rock Revue. Do you know what Yacht Rock is? And I said, no, I don't know what it is. he explained to me that yacht rock is this subgenre of music, and the term was originally made popular on some sarcastic YouTube videos that kind of poked fun at artists like Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins and all those very highly produced, slick,
adult
sort
contemporary
of
type.
blue-eyed. Well, they're adult contemporary, but they're also kind of blue-eyed soul. You know, there's you know it when you hear it if it's yacht rock. And there are also these great debates about is it yachty or naughty. You know, as to what is a true yacht rock song and what isn't. Like some people will consider the Eagles yacht rock, but other people will say no, it's just soft rock, but it's not yacht rock because it doesn't have that blue-eyed soul.
The Eagles are more canyon rock. If I can create subgenres, and I'd be happy to.
That's a good idea.
So he explained to me that my song, I guess for the sound of it, but also because of the subject matter, was, you know, part of the original pantheon of yacht rock.
Well, pedigree.
And he also explained to me that this band, which was basically just a great, great cover band, they were doing shows in which they played only yacht rock songs, and they were called Yacht Rock Revue. And he said, you know, we're really getting really popular with this. We're out of Atlanta, and we would love for you to come out. We're also going to get Peter Beckett, who was from Player, Baby Come Back, and Walter Egan, who did Magnet and Steel.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who else was on that first show. He said, we'll come down to Atlanta, and we'll pay you well, and you'll do this show with us. And I said, oh, okay, I'll go check it out. I wasn't doing much. And we did this show at a park in Atlanta, and there must have been like 4,000 people there. And the crowd is very interesting. They're not my age, our age, or even your age. They're younger. They're like, you know, in their 20s to 40s. They're almost all exclusively white. They're all really drunk and wearing sailor hats and partying like there's no tomorrow.
Wow.
So it's like Parrot Head's Next Generation. Kind of.
Kind of, except aren't Parrot Heads only his fans?
Yeah,
or is
but
it
it's
genre?
a type of person.
Okay.
It's a type of person that really wants to wear a funny hat and get extremely drunk.
These people are called, some of them call themselves anchorheads.
Okay?
Okay, there's a group
I like
of
that.
anchorheads. But the music is extremely popular. The Yacht Rock Revue does very well. There's a West Coast equivalent of them called Yachtly Crew, I think they call themselves.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, but I do a lot of shows with them.
So is there a tour in this after the pandemic's over, or?
Yeah, I'm doing a private gig with them in September, and we'll do more of them because they're still extremely popular. You know, they tour all over the country. I played with them the last show I did before the pandemic. We played at what's the theater over at Wilshire on East Wilshire? Anyway,
Wiltern?
Which one?
Wiltern?
Yeah, we played at Wiltern. It was the last show I did before the pandemic. We played at Wiltern.
Wow.
We sold out. They do very well.
So what are their top 5 songs? Like what do you
You got to have
said,
Hall
okay.
& Oates. Hall & Oates has got to be up there at least once, maybe twice. You
Yeah.
got Rich Girl.
Yeah.
And you got You Make My Dreams Come True. Those have to be in the set.
Okay.
Then you get Minute by Minute by Michael McDonald.
Sure.
It's a big one. Kenny Loggins is
Oh, yeah.
big in the set.
Any Christopher
You're
Cross?
nodding your head. You must be a big Yacht Rock fan. Those are right up there. Oh,
Sailing?
there's a guy who does the shows with us sometime. He may not be as well known as some of the others by his name, but you'll know his songs. Robbie Dupree,
I love Robbie Dupree.
Steal Away,
That's quintessential.
quintessential yacht rock. And Robbie is one of the funniest cats that you will ever meet.
Is he?
And whenever we do something with Robbie, everybody laughs. He's just smart. And
Well, how many
funny.
players are in the actual review before you guys get out?
I think there are 7. There's one main guitar player, but it's led by 2 guys named Peter Olson and Nick, his partner. They really invented the band, and they lead the band. The band, I think, is normally a 7-piece band, although sometimes they add a horn section. Sometimes they add some background singers. It depends on how big the gig is.
I've always wondered this about cover bands. Do they have to pay rights to do their material?
No, the way that works is supposedly the venue keeps track of what songs are played at the venue.
Oh, that's
and
so
they
funny.
pay either ASCAP or BMI, and they're supposed to present the
Wow.
set list or whatever. That doesn't work out very well either.
Now, do any like rich corporate types sort of rent a boat to tour New York Harbor and hire you guys?
well, it wouldn't be
That's a great
you
idea.
guys, but it'd be those guys.
Yeah.
They do a lot of corporate stuff, and they get paid very well for those kinds of things. They
Because
do a
to
lot.
actual experience it on a yacht
Would
would be
be
a little piece of heaven right
unbelievable.
there. Yeah. Fritz, let's invest.
I'm ready to do
Yeah.
it. I want to hear them. I hope they come. I hope their tour
They'll
brings
be
them out
back
here.
in L.A. They're really excellent. I mean, just to call them a cover band doesn't really do them justice because Nick, who's the lead singer, and Peter, who sings over, they have a ton of personality. The thing that makes them great is they walk that line just like you have to with yacht rock. It's like their tongue is firmly in cheek, but they do give a certain deference to it at the same time. And they
Their
walk that
musicianship
line.
is great, and they play well with the
They
music.
walk that line just perfectly.
Plus, it probably drafts on this thing. I've talked about this with other musical artists. It's astonishing how much the boomers and the slightly pre-boomers will pay on these tours. Like the Eagles are getting $1,500 a seat for these tickets, and
Not for me, they're not.
no, you know what I mean, though. These bands they're doing, the constant touring and the Rolling Stones. It's insane the amount of money people are paying for concerts.
It is, and I think, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I think part of it has to do with the promoters too, because by the time you get the promoter, which are usually these big companies, and then you get the people who sell the tickets, the ticket masters, etc., and everybody takes a piece, and the band gets paid very well, and it's big business now.
Yeah, it's big business. And I think that also, too, like you were talking about the age group that you see, like I think people can easily enjoy rabbit holes, and they can become fans of music that was even produced before they were born, just by kind of saying, oh, the person I love was influenced by this person who was influenced by this person. You can get there very quickly, whereas when we were growing up, you really had to collect records and ask the record store if they could send away for something.
Well, that's what I mean about the accessibility that Spotify and iMusic offers, in that it's the world's largest jukebox, and you can find whatever you want on it. And also, for me, I found that when the song was in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, suddenly I had a young audience that discovered the song entirely from that movie.
So when people find out that you did Brandy, what do they want to tell you? What do they want to ask you?
It depends. It depends who. I mean, I'm kind of like a stay-at-home guy. I mean, I'm not really in the music business anymore. I go out and do these gigs and these dates from time to time, but I don't interact with fans that often. I have a website. I have a Facebook page. I'm not real aggressive about it, although I try to answer most of the people who contact me. And most of them are, just pretty complimentary and say how much they like the song, which is, great.
I'm sure there are some sincere memories connected with that song from.
Or discovering it, newly discovering it, being excited about it.
I mean, I'll get a bunch of stuff on Facebook or on a website that says, God, first time I heard this song was in Guardians, and man, they said it was the greatest song ever written. Man, it was great.
Well, then they agree with me. I want to know if you've received any Brandy artwork, because I think it would inspire paintings.
I really haven't. I think I got one drawing once that was really kind of nice. Then there was a funny thing that a radio station on Long Island did. They called me up and they said, we're going to do a thing on the web where everyone is going to describe what Brandy looks like. And it was really fun because, there were a lot of responses. And they, each one, of course, was totally different. She's a tall blonde. No, she's a short redhead. It was
Either their girlfriend or their idealistic girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know who Brandy kind of is? She's kind of like Kitty in Gunsmoke.
Good point.
Because, Marshall Dillon's not marrying Kitty. He needs to ride. His love, his life, and his lady is his horse.
Don't let your, what is it? Don't let your sons grow up to be cowboys?
Yes, exactly. Well, Elliot, it's just been a delight. Now, you can visit Elliot on his Facebook page, which we're going to put in our show notes, and his YouTube page, which his wife films, and he's creating content constantly, so you can enjoy all of that and become his friend online. And here come our closing credits. We would love for you to join us online on Instagram and Twitter, where we are at Media Path Pod, and on Facebook, where we are Media Path Podcast. You can find full episodes with all kinds of bonus visual content on our YouTube channel, Media Path Podcast. We would love to know what media you've been enjoying. You can contact us at our social media or email us at mediapathpodcast@gmail.com. We want to thank our guest, Elliot Lurie. Our team includes Dina Friedman, Francesco Demanda, John Maddox, Sharon Bellio, Bill Filipiak, Thomas Hubble, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. I am Louise Palanker, here with Fritz Coleman, and we will see you along the media path. But first...
And if you enjoyed this episode of Media Path, it would help us a great deal to be more discoverable by potential new listeners if you leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're new here and this is your first time with us, please check out our back catalog. We have lots of great binge-worthy stuff. Wonderful artists, Diane Warren and Gary Puckett and the Cowsills and Elliot Lurie and all these wonderful people. Going back to the very beginning, you'll hear exciting and exclusive interviews with Henry Winkler and Keith Morrison from Dateline. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us, and we would be overjoyed if you took a moment to share your thoughts with us or recommend us to a friend. Be safe. Thanks for listening.
hit subscribe.
Great, Elliot. Thank you. Thank you. That was great.